Hello everyone, I am the Enforcer, and welcome to the Breaking News. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and support us on Patreon, link in the description below. Today's breaking news is that an armed uprising has begun within the Dagestan region of the Russian Federation, a region that is one of the most south and easterly regions within the Russian Federation and borders the Caspian Sea. According to information that we have, a uprising faction has declared that they will be conducting open warfare against the Russian Federation, and we can see reports of armed conflict occurring all the way from the major city, the Oblast capital of Makhachkala, and all the way down and into the area of Derbent, almost along the border with Azerbaijan. This news has come as quite a shock, as this armed uprising has been something that many have known would be happening for quite some time, but we have never seen it break out in such a large form. The last time we saw similar uprisings, they were actually being conducted within Ingushetia, around the area of Nazran, and also over into the area of Vladikavkaz. We were able to see that during that time, the Russian Federation had a somewhat difficult time quelling the uprising, and it took about 4 to 5 days for the uprising to be crushed, although it was much smaller than the one we're currently seeing. With the information that we have, especially coming out of the area of Makhachkala, we are getting an idea that things are going very badly. We can hear the sounds of heavy firefights permeating from most streets, and we do have some audio here letting us hear the sound of the firefights that are occurring within the Oblast's capital. The sounds of these firefights are still continuing as we talk right now, although we have heard that according to the Russian Federation, some special forces are preparing to storm a church where the separatists have apparently taken hostages and are currently holding the building. It appears that at the moment there is most likely an ongoing firefight inside of one of the churches in the city of Makhachkala, but nevertheless we do not have a lot of information on that firefight and how that is unfolded yet at this moment. However, we were able to hear once again the sounds of heavy gunfire permeating from other parts of the city, like this clip right here. That's the end of that clip. In the meantime, we also got some additional news that a synagogue and a church have been set on fire by the separatists within the region. From the information that we have, we believe that this was the synagogue that has been caught on fire within the area of Makhachkala. Sorry, everyone, that name is really hard for me to pronounce. It is actually Makhachkala, an incredibly difficult name to pronounce. We're just going to call that the Oblast capital from here forward. But nevertheless, it does appear that the firefights are continuing at a very heavy pace within the city, and it seems as though this armed uprising may have an incredibly large number of members. We have heard that Russian forces have taken considerably high casualties just over the first hour. We have already been able to confirm that at least 6 Russian police officers and special forces have already been killed in just the first 24 hours alone, and we've also been able to hear that supposedly 2 or 3 of the separatists have also been killed as well, just within the first hour of fighting, which is giving us an idea that this open rebellion is going to be quite a major one. Meanwhile, all the way down the coast and in the area of Derbent, we were able to see that armored personnel carriers have been mobilized from the local Rosguardia and are on move through the city. Many people may find this to be very reminiscent of very similar videos that we saw literally on this day last year as the Wagner coup began, and the Rosguardia, much like it is now, was mobilized and beginning to drive their armored personnel carriers through many of the city streets of the Russian Federation. Well, that's the end of that clip, but we were also able to see Rosguardia forces moving through the streets of Derbent on foot as well, showing that there is a heavy armed forces presence, although we can note that the Rosguardia, which this is of course expected, appears to be far less better equipped than even the Russian infantry on the front lines in Ukraine. That's the end of that clip right there, but once again showing us that actions are continuing to increase, at least in their volatility, and also the amount of firefights that are happening are also beginning to increase as well. From what we understand, this armed uprising is mostly being conducted by the Free Ingushetian Army, which is a group that is inside of the area of Ingushetia and has been conducting open rebellions against the Russian Federation for quite some time. We have not heard at the moment of any civilian casualties that have been caused, but we have heard that these separatists have continued to take hostages within the towns of Mahachkala and also the area of Derbent as well. We do not have a lot of information about the amount of hostages that have been taken, the demands of the hostage holders, or anything for that matter, rather than there is a large rebellion ongoing, which is pretty much sweeping the most populated areas of the Oblast of Dagestan, and at the moment it appears that this will be continuing on for quite some time, and the Russian Federation will have their hands tied up greatly in trying to deal with this ongoing crisis within the region and trying to put down another armed rebellion. Another thing that's giving us an idea that this will take quite some time to put down is the absolute geographical scope of the uprising. Unlike inside of Ingushetia, which is a fairly small oblast within the Russian Federation, the area of Dagestan is incredibly vast and quite large. The distance in between Derbent and Mahachkala is a whopping 70 miles, meaning that this open rebellion could exist in a 70-mile area along the coastline, meaning that the Russian Federation will have to deal with an incredibly large amount of ground to cover, and not only that, conduct with a massive, as the Russians are calling it, an anti-terrorism operation to try and stop the separatists from continuing on their attacks throughout the area. We do not know how this will unfold, but nevertheless, this is major breaking news, and this is the largest armed uprising that we have seen inside the Russian Federation since the beginning of the war. Meanwhile, we were able to get news from inside of Sevastopol that apparently smoke is rising from the city after several American ATACMS missiles ended up striking the city and apparently causing some damage. We have not been able to get specific news on what kind of damage has been caused, and the Russians have supposedly claimed that one of the ATACMS missiles was shot down over the beaches of Sevastopol and ended up slamming into some onlookers and beachgoers, possibly causing fatalities. We do not have any picture or video evidence to confirm that at this moment, and of course we cannot show that on our channel, but we have not been able to independently corroborate those claims and state that such information is confirmed to be true or not. We are able to confirm, however, that the city of Sevastopol was under ATACMS attack, and we can tell that some of these ATACMS were able to strike their targets, although we don't know what those targets were at this moment and what kind of damage has been caused. The attacks are so recent that not really a lot of information has come out about them, rather than the fact that they have happened, and we will most likely have to wait until later tonight on our stream at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to be able to report additional updates on this attack and what kind of damage was caused, or we will have to wait until the next day on the next short war summary video to be able to try and recap what happened here and what kind of significant damage was really caused. Meanwhile, up in the Kyiv area, we were actually able to get a very interesting statement from Kirillo Budanov, as we were able to hear that apparently, according to Budanov, if the occupied territories are not returned to the state of Ukraine, a state of war will continue forever for the nation of Ukraine. Regarding the offensive of Russia in the east, there will be no Armageddon, but the situation will be difficult for at least another month. The supply of weapons continues faster than a few months ago, but Ukraine's needs are very high, given the rate of consumption in the war. It does seem as though we are going to most likely expect that Ukrainian forces will be in a state of war up until the point of a Russian governmental and economic collapse, which we're expecting to happen by the end of this year or the beginning of next year. Many factors are indicating that we are seeing that the Russians are most likely in some sort of a severe economic and military decline that will reach its apex by that time frame, and we are expecting that the war will most likely end by then, as with the massive amount of issues happening inside of the Russian Federation at that moment, and the heavy confusion for the armed forces that will come as a result of that, we are believing that the Ukrainians will probably be able to reclaim all of their territories in one large move during that time. But nevertheless, we will have to wait and see, but it does seem as though that Ukraine is still adamant on securing their territorial integrity and making sure to try and keep their war goals secure and in picture, making sure to try and reestablish their 1991 borders by the time of the end of the war. Moving on from all of this news that is happening either inside of southeastern Russia or southwestern Russia for the large part, and also inside of Ukraine as well, we were able to hear that another ship in the Gulf of Aden has sunk due to a Houthi attack. According to the information that we have, the vessel is currently sinking and the crew had to abandon ship due to uncontrollable flooding of the vessel. This is once again another attack by Houthi forces that has led to the loss of a commercial shipping vessel. We do not know currently what the mass response will be from the West. We have seen multiple vessels been hit and sank in the past, and we have not seen a major Western response at the moment to really any of those sinkings, but it does appear that commercial shipping continues to be incredibly dangerous around the areas of the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, and most shipping companies will most likely be making the much more expensive but probably wiser decision of sending their vessels around the Cape in the area around southern Africa instead of sending them through the Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea towards the Suez Canal. We will probably see that the Middle Eastern area begins to get heated over this, as the Egyptians may be losing Suez Canal passage fees from ships that are deciding to travel around the entirety of the continent of Africa instead of through the Suez Canal. This may actually push the Egyptians to pressure Western governments onto taking more serious and discerning action against the Houthis inside of Western Yemen and trying to make sure to crush their abilities to conduct anti-shipping measures. But at the moment, we do not know much more than that, rather than this vessel is sinking, and once again, Houthi attacks are wreaking havoc on commercial shipping in the Gulf of Aden and Red Sea areas. But with that, that is all of the major breaking news that we have at this moment. I have to thank all of y'all so much once again for watching, and if y'all did enjoy, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It does make us incredibly happy when people do, and of course, support us on Patreon if you really enjoyed this content. I have to give a massive shout out to all of our current patrons who helped to make this channel possible and continue to support our efforts in being able to try and cover this incredible and historic breaking news. And so with that, I thank you all so much once again for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.